We're entering the water this week for an exciting and immersive way to fish, which allows anglers to quietly approach their favorite species in their natural habitat.
That's right, Bree, and whether we're stalking redfish on the flats or making long casts in the surf, we're going wade fishing on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Florida Insider Fishing Report for our season finale. Rick, we're wrapping things up with wade fishing, but before we get started, we just wanted to address Hurricane Helene out there. She's making her presence known on our West Coast Panhandle regions, and we just hope everyone stays safe with a swift recovery and minimal damage. Now, Rick, as we've said, hurricanes can really shake things up, both good and bad. So how will these conditions affect our wade opportunities this weekend, you think?
Well, certainly for the guys on the East Coast, they're going to have really good fishing because the wind is going to be blowing the water offshore.
Right.
However, if you live in the Gulf of Mexico, any of those guys, you might want to watch college football and the other football too, NFL football, because it is not going to be pretty. When you have a hurricane, it messes up the fishing temporarily, but in the long run, it's really, really good for fishing in general.
Good to know. Watch some football, grab a pumpkin spice latte, whatever you need to do. But before we check in on our first West Coast captain and say hi to our friends from CCA and Scoozy a little bit later, let's see how our Converse commander is doing at the CCA workbench.
I am not going to be grabbing a pumpkin spice latte. I know that.
Or a beer. Whatever.
It might be a beer, but not a pumpkin spice latte. No.
Well, I will be. What are you grabbing to go wading, though?
I've got some nice boots and some nice rods and reels we're going to talk about, a cool little backpack, all those cool things.
Very nice. Maybe some Converse. I don't know. We'll see. All right, well, we won't keep you waiting any longer because we have our StarTron Central West Region captain ready to take the final plunge with us, Jeff Page. How's it going over there?
Well, I'm up in the Smoky Mountains, but down our way, the good news is the storm is further out in the Gulf. So I believe it's going to be more of like what we had with Debbie. But that doesn't mean the folks up Apalachicola and Gary Bartles area aren't going to get hit a lot hard too. So like you said, Bree, let's pray for all those folks. Everybody batten down the hatches and get ready for some good college football. But I love wade fishing, Rick. And in our region, you can wade in the summertime, but the best time to start wading is in about another month. We get into late October, November, and those tides start getting low, close to the full and the new moon. And Dave hit on it. All you really need most of the year is a good pair of zipper booties. You get into December, January, it's a good idea to have a pair of, light, breathable stocking foot waders. A mistake a lot of people they get those duck boot waders, and you get down in some mud and you go to step out, you pull your foot right out of the boot. So stocking foot waders, either neoprene or light breathable, and you want to slip a rubber bootie on over your wader. So it's a good idea to maybe have two pairs of booties, one for your bare feet and one for your stocking foot waders. Then a little chest pack or a zipper. A lot of times the waders have little zipper compartments, and you can keep your tackle and scissors and leader and stuff like that all high and dry, and your phone to take pictures. And then you just go on a little walkabout. As you remember, Rick, I remember one time we went down in that little 17 Maverick down in Charlotte Harbor in Bull Whiddens Creek, and we shot such a good morning. We made two shows, a soft plastic and a hard bait show.
That's right.
I even got you in the water wading, which is a hard mission to accomplish.
That's right.
Anyway, that being said, as we get into winter, don't be afraid to get out of the boat and wade, because a lot of times, the fish are a little spookier, and you can get right up to them and not have to cast so far and make presentations properly to catch them, because it's more of an artificial game. Yes, you can bring a bait bucket, but lures like soft plastic, jig heads, weedless gold spoons, and of course topwater surface plugs, all great wading tools to have. My photo tonight is of quite a few years ago of a story we did on wading, and that's Captain Page dressed up like Santa Claus.
That's him.
Santa gets his slam. I love it.
All right. Tell me about the redfish, bub.
Redfish is probably one of our best species to wade for. And like I said, they've really been getting together. And a lot of the schools are starting to stay in certain areas. Now, I don't know what this storm's going to do on the bars around Bull and Turtle Bay. Good red fishing around Long Bar and Sarasota Bay. And then as you get up north, all the way up that shoreline from Emerson, all the way up to the Skyway along Rattlesnake Key, higher stages of the tide, look for the fish up tight to the shorelines, tight to the oyster bars. Gold spoons, Sabile, Berkeley stick shads work real well because they make a silent presentation. Sometimes they are a little spooky. And then if you're going to live bait them, it's tough to beat a pinfish or a shiner under a popping cork. My redfish photo tonight of my wife and a good friend of the show, Captain Jeremy Lee, that owns a big tackle store in Lakewood Ranch called Premier Tackle. A few years back when we were fishing a tournament, and we waited the whole tournament catching redfish like those two.
All right, let's go offshore.
Offshore, I wanted to mention them last week. A lot of the guys, while they've been mangrove fishing and yellowtail fishing, they've even been getting some nice lane snappers. The yellowtail and the lanes are still holding in that 90 to 150 feet of water, ledges, springs, hard bottom areas. Going to want to bring them up off the bottom with some chum bags. All pieces of shrimp or pilchard on a light 1 or 1/0 Trocor circle hook. Light leader, 20, 30-pound leaders, all you need. And you're going to get your yellowtails and lanes. And my photo tonight is of a Emerson. That was last year. He was a senior at Riverview High School, my alma mater. And he caught that big snapper with Captain Speed Ball or Bell. I'm not sure which one it is. And my last species, permit fishing remains really good. Now, I don't know what's going to happen after all this storm settles down, but we've had these flat, calm mornings, and the fish have been up on top. Captain Billy Hallstrom's been doing really good when he can get the crabs, but the other day he couldn't even get any. He went out there just with the U-Pro Pompano jigs, and he still caught a dozen. And that picture tonight I have is of one of his customers with a big permit she got on the U-Pro Pompano jig.
She sure did. All right, Captain Page, thanks for starting us off. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the Central West region. Jeff says, inshore, mixed bag of trout, bluefish, and jacks. Fish the deeper grass flats from New Pass to Longboat Pass in Sarasota Bay. Focus on the areas holding raised up schools of small fry bait. And then offshore, the permit fishing remains really strong with lots of fish holding on the nearshore artificial reefs in 1 to 7 mile range. The live pass grabs has been the best bait, but you can try that Euro Pompano jig. It's working well as well.
Well, this captain has definitely lived up to his region's name and has been a front runner all season long in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region. Tommy, if we want to get our feet wet, where do we start?
You there, Tommy?
You can get your feet wet a lot here probably over the next couple of days. Like everybody else is saying, I hope everybody stays safe during this hurricane that we have going on. But happy season finale, guys. And, we're really not known here in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region as a wading area, but we do have some really cool and unique wading opportunities. Most of our bottom, it's soft and muddy. And that can make wading kind of difficult, but if you stay closer to the inlets where the bottom is more of a hard-packed sand, that wading can definitely be doable. Now, something anglers really need to understand while they're wading around my region is they need to make sure they wear proper foot protection. Our oyster shells, they can be razor blade sharp, and they're on just about every type of bottom we have. Now, my favorite way, and definitely one of the coolest ways to wade fish around here, is during some of our flood tides. Now, we've had some great flood tides here the last couple of weeks, thanks to coming off this big moon and some pretty high northeast and onshore winds. When the tide gets over about 5.5 feet or so, the water gets into some grassy, marshy areas that don't usually have water over them. Now, the redfish, they can't get into those areas usually on a regular high tide. So when they do get water over them, the redfish get super excited about the crabs that they can get to. And you're going to see those redfish tailing, backing. They're going to be slurping the crabs in that grass. It's really fun to chase them and watch them do that. Most of the flood tides happen in the late summer and the fall, but we have some sneaky floods throughout the year. really kind of depending on what the weather's doing. Now, we have some good ones coming up over the next couple of months, so check out your tide tables and get that dialed in. It's one of my absolute favorite ways to chase redfish. Really, it's a sight fishing game at its best. Now, aside from all the cool flood tide stuff we got going on, another way to wade fish in the region is in the surf or along the beaches and the inlets. There's sea trout, ladyfish, whiting, redfish, flounder, tarpon, all kinds of different stuff, all kinds of different species hanging in the surf and in the inlets right now that are chasing all the finger mullet that we have around. And I've got a photo here. Captain Matt Omlar, he sent me this picture of Brandon Thompson with the stud redfish that he caught with Captain Matt on a recent flood tide. And Brandon is rocking his Bajíos, and I think he's got a Bajío hat on there too. But man, gotta love the flooded grass here.
What else you got?
Also inshore, guys, the snook bite has continued this week throughout the region. The snook have been feeding both early and late in the day on those schools of finger mullet that are coming through in huge droves right now, especially in the south end of the region. That's where the snook fishing is especially good. The docks on the ICW from Flagler to Daytona, they're going to be a great place to look for some snook. If there's bait going by them, then you can bet there's probably a few snook under those docks as well. The Tomoka Basin and all the little creeks and canals around it are holding good numbers of snook there as well. Captain Chris Herrera, he tells me he's doing best with smaller topwater plugs, like that Berkeley Jaywalker 100. Like, there you go. I love that color right there, Rick. The snook have also been around St. Augustine at the bridges and at the inlets, and I've seen and I've heard of a lot of the captains here catching those snook as a bycatch while they're just fishing on the bottom for redfish along the inlets and the bridges. I got another photo here. Captain Chris Herrera, he sent me this picture of Terry Throop with a nice Matanzas inlet snook that he caught on the fly rod, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
Now, moving offshore, since this is our last show of the year, you know, I thought I'd do a little forecast, talk about sailfish, because our season, at least our sailfish season, is just about to get going. I spoke to a couple of our offshore captains about the sailfish. They tell me that they think most likely after the next nor'easter, or at least in the next little bit of a cool down, those sailfish are going to be showing up in better numbers, and they're going to be migrating south through the region. Now, this can be a hot spot for some schooling sailfish heading into the next couple of months. Those sails, they start balling up bait schools out there, and the guys tell me they'll be eating smaller baits, so you may want to downsize your leader a little bit, maybe use smaller ballyhoo to kind of match the hatch. Now, finally, you know, also offshore, most of the charter guys are targeting various species of snapper, and there's a few of them that got on this exempted fishing permit, or they got that permit to be able to keep some red snapper out of the season. Now, the FWC formed that program to help them more carefully study those red snappers, and the FWC is hoping to collect better catch and discard data. It's going to help the management of our red snapper fisheries, and we all know the red snapper are very abundant throughout the region. Any reef or wreck from about 80 foot and deeper is just absolutely loaded up with them right now. And out just a little bit deeper in that 100 foot plus range, there's a lot of vermilion snappers being caught as well, if you can get past the red snappers. And guys, I've got one last pick for the season. My buddy Mark Beagle is the Northeast Florida CCA chapter president. He had the opportunity to go on one of those EFP snapper trips with Captain Billy from Team Buck Rogers Charters last week, and you can see they did pretty well. They're going to be eating good, and they helped do some research as well.
Well, that's one way to get some good red snapper fishing. Let's go.
There you go.
Figure out a loophole, baby, and go fishing. I like it.
That's it.
And it's a CCA guy going and catching them. I love that.
You do what you got to do.
Listen, the conservation made it so good. Guess what? Why not benefit from it? You know what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much, Tommy. You had a great year. Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
all the great pictures. It's time for the Strike Zone hotspots from the Northeast region. He says inshore, the snook and the redfish at all the inlets. Fish small mullet on the bottom. And then offshore, a mixed bag of snappers and AJs from 100 feet and deeper.
We're looking pretty snappery ourselves, if I got to
Yeah,
say.
man. Look at us.
Look at us. All right, coming right up, we're finding out what wading tips.
I feel like a Sherbert push-up. You know, the little push-up.
Not going to even go there. Dave Farrell has some wading tips at the Fish Bites Trading Post, rigs and
that was a good
techniques, and the CCA workbench.
Yep.
Dave,
That was a good one.
that was a good one.
Sherbert push-up.
Sherbert push-up.
Well, I'm gonna share a few little secrets that I had. I used to do a lot of wading as a younger man before I got scared. So we're gonna talk a little bit about all those
All those
cool
things.
little tricks.
All right, and then
wade.
Sounds good. Then we're grabbing our gear to head into the Rio Legend Central East region with Captain Jim Ross. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Sirius XM Marine. Weather. Fish mapping. Entertainment. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Berkeley Prospect Chrome. Fish Bites Trading Post. The first choice of First Coast anglers. Castaway Coffee. One taste and you'll be hooked. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench, and it's time for the Fish Bites Trading Post Rigs and Techniques. Dave, one last time.
Yes, man.
So, what do we got this week?
We're talking about wade fishing, and like everybody's saying, it is the really best way to immerse yourself into the environment, literally, and sneak up on fish. You can get real close to a lot of fish that would spook when they see a boat or hear a trolling motor and that sort of thing. So it's a really cool way to go fishing. First thing you got to do is you got to have a place where you can do it that has a nice hard bottom, a nice sandy bottom. You don't want to mess with the mud. I've lost quite a few pairs of tennis shoes, in muddy water, trying to wade in places where I shouldn't,
Soft bottom.
Soft bottom. You get your shoe down in that mud and they come off. You need a nice pair of boots. If you're gonna, a nice tall pair if you can, the higher the better to keep them from getting into that, really soft stuff. And a good pair of Converse tennis shoes. That's what I normally would wear because you can lace them all the way up to the top and tie them up real tight.
Yeah.
And they won't come off. You got to be careful though because you'll get the squeeze. If you're wading in really deep water, above your belly, your feet get that squeeze on you. And if you got your shoes on real tight, you get cramps in your feet, which used to happen to me a lot. Rods and reels, you want something that's a little more water resistant for sure. That Van Staal VR50 there on a Fenwick rod, that's a bass rod. You want something to like 7 feet, if preferably 6'6" or 7 feet with a really fast tip so you can make really long casts. The longer you can cast, the more grounds you can cover. Or you could use a bait caster. You need something that's going to be really water resistant because you're going to be in the water. It's sealed. It's sealed. It's aluminum construction. Everything's waterproof. The drag's waterproof. Nothing can get in there. And
obviously,
if you're want like a bait caster, that Penn bait caster is
the Fathom.
The Fathom is a really nice rod and reel to use because again, Penns are made for salt water and that's going to hold up better than if you took all your bass stuff out like I used to do. You got to really almost dismantle it and rinse it really well because once that thing goes into the salt water, if it's not made for salt water like all the Penn stuff is, you're gonna have a corrosion problem.
That's correct.
So a lot of the lures that we want to use, I like using top water stuff when I'm wade fishing. I just really like that whole bite. I can see the bite and stuff. So, and it works really well for the trout and the reds that I'm usually targeting. Also, you can use, that's a jaywalker there, but the Savage Gear Twitch Reaper is great. We get these big schools of mullet in the Indian River and Banana River, and you throw that thing near a mullet school and twitch it around. It's going to get piled on.
And they make a lot of sizes. So go on their line. Go to savagelures.com or savagegear.com. Or you can go to Berkeley. They're all owned by the same company.
Yep. And if you're wanting to throw paddle tails or shrimp, you got the Gulp paddle tail over there or the Berkeley power baits. Those things work really great on a jig head. You can bounce those, usually in your place where you can wade, you can bounce those on the sand or throw them into potholes because you can see the potholes, if you get up close to them. And those are really great, really great. I was talking earlier about, how to have the nice boots and stuff. I used to, when I was wading a lot, I would go buy the cheapest waders if I was in the wintertime. Buy the cheapest waders I could buy at the Walmart or whatever, little plastic ones, and I would put on a pair of sweatpants and then put the cheap plastic waders on over the top of that and then put my shoes on top of those waders. And that really, that helps a lot. Nowadays we got these really cool backpacks to use, like this AFTCO one. You can put all your stuff in the backpack. We used to have these little fanny packs that would get immersed in water. So everything that you had in that fanny pack would get salted up, and this keeps everything on your back and out of the water. You can
going on your back.
Plus, you can put it on and put an extra rod or reel on there as well if you want.
So do you wear it in the front or the back?
You wear that on the back.
In the back.
And you also have a stringer, if you have a good stringer system, and if you can carry one of these little, if you want to use bait, you can have a little floating bait pin behind you. And you want to make sure that you have a good fish gripper of some sort, because you're going to be in the water and you want to be able to control the fish to either to let him go or to keep him.
That Gomexis is the way to go.
That Gomexis is very nice.
Thank you so much. That was really good.
It was fast.
Way to do
ran
it,
out of time.
Dave.
Fast,
So
fast,
thorough. Fast. All right. Well, in the Real Legends Central East region, we have Jim Ross, who's telling us what's going on this weekend. Jim?
Well, I tell you what, I can't believe this is the final show of the season.
I know.
Hopefully everybody out there enjoys the off season. But until then, we're going to talk about some wade fishing, and there's plenty of places on the Space Coast for people to get out there and do some wade fishing. Now, one of the places that a lot of people really overlook is the beach itself. It's accessible to everyone. We have beach the entire length of the coast here on the Space Coast. And with our fall mullet run going on, it's in full swing right now, wade fishing is actually a great way to catch a lot of fish along the beach. Now, like Dave and Rick were talking about at the workbench, you need a reel that has some waterproofness or some water, the ability to keep water out of it. And so a pin slammer or a pin authority in that 4,500 to 5,500 size is a really, really great option. You guys need to take a look at both of those because they have an IP rating of whatever that they have on them, and they are fantastic when it comes to being waterproof. So put that on a 7 to 8 foot medium heavy action rod, use some 15 to 30 pound test braided line, get a saltwater assassin Artemis shad in the silver mullet, the green hornet, or the new pilchard color, and you've got everything you need. You're imitating what's going on in the surf right now. So if you're going to be inshore, you can also wade around the islands. Go with something a little smaller, the 4-inch sea shad, or even a little 3-inch little minnow, straight-tailed, like a little V-tailed minnow, work fantastic. You're also going to catch, Spanish mackerel, tarpon, blues, snook, redfish, jacks. Some of these fish are going to be 2 pounds. Some of them are going to be 120. You're not going to stop some of these big fish, especially in the surf. But at least with those pin reels, you've got the capacity to have the opportunity to catch them. If you're wade fishing inshore, just be careful that you've got alligators that we do have in the northern Indian River system and in the Mosquito Lagoon system. So just keep an eye out behind you because we do have a couple of those big lizards running around. Now I've got a picture here of Ken with a big old trout that we caught from one of the spoil islands down in Sebastian this past week. And that's one of the fish that you can get out and wade around each of these spoil islands and catch big fish like this one right here.
You sure did. All right, what else you got this week, Bub?
We got snook, Rick, and the live fingerling mullet on a 2-aught or 3-aught circle hook cast against the mangrove trees is probably one of the best ways to get them to strike. There's tons of bait out there right now. If you're an artificial guy, like I was saying, that assassin slam and shad in the 4-inch size is absolutely fantastic. They love that color. And then also the 5-inch straight-tailed bait is working good as well. And you put those on about a 1/8 ounce jig head and twitch them very erratically. That seems to be triggering the snook to bite the best. Once again, a Pin Battle 4000 or even a Conflict on a 6.5 to 7 foot long medium heavy action rod, and you want to use at least 30 and possibly even 40 pound fluorocarbon leader because these big snook they're gonna get you wrapped in those bushes if they can. Got a picture of snook here to go along with that. There's one that we pulled out of the mangroves in Newfound Harbor just a few days ago.
All right, let's go offshore.
Lastly but not least, we've got going offshore. We've got the dolphin. They're returning to the Real Legends region, and guys are out there dragging full spreads of skirted ballyhoo, and they're trying to invite a couple of those fish home to dinner. You want to look at 200 to 350 foot of water right now, the western edge of the Gulf Stream where that water cleans up, and a green and yellow or a blue and white island lure, and I prefer the trackers or the sea stars for dolphin, over a medium ballyhoo is pretty standard equipment for getting hooked up. 5 to 6 knots is what you want to pull those baits at. And around the floaters and weeds, try pitching live pilchards or even finger mullet on a 4/0 to 5/0 size circle hook and some 50 pound test leader. If there's any dolphin around, it shouldn't take long for you to get one on the line. Multiple hookups are common whenever the dolphins show up this time of year, and our average dolphin's running about 5 to 10 pounds. And then my last species, Rick, is Silver Kings. You're my favorite of the whole season. We love catching those tarpon, and our near coastal waters have got them. Our inshore waters have got them. You're going to see them busting mullet and rolling on the beach right now. Run up and down the beach with your wade gear. You can sight cast to these things. You can net live mullet and throw them out there as well. A 60 to 80 pound leader on a 7/0 or 8/0 circle hook is the way to get them. And keep about 6 feet of line for that leader material. And if you want to throw a float, you can even put a float up there if you want to. Most of our tarpon are running between 60 and 140 pounds right now. And I've got a picture here of Chloe Boswell. And she landed one about 100 pounds just outside Port Canaveral the other day while she was fishing with her dad. And she is a huge Brie Gabrielle fan.
Oh, well, good job, girl.
Congratulations.
Jim, thank you for filling in for me so many times this year. I appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Road and Marine Systems hotspots. Captain Jim says inshore, the snook along the mangroves, covered shorelines between Hog Point and Campbell Pocket. Use live mullet or lures that imitate them tight to the shoreline. And then offshore, mangrove snappers on the reefs and wrecks in 90 to 130 feet of water. Use live and cut baits on a knocker rig. Pumpkin spice, what you say?
Pumpkin spice or pumpkin beer. Pumpkin beer works too. It's just fall, okay? All right, we're talking wade fishing, and just so our anglers know, the CCA Florida Star Competition, presented by Yamaha in the past 10 years, has had 6 tagged redfish recaptured, but unfortunately, none of them were registered. So make sure you get registered for the 2025 Star Competition, because even though Star is over, the winning is not. If you recapture any previous year's Star tagged redfish, you can win a $1,000 prize package from Angle Coolers, but remember, you have to be registered before you hook and land the Star tagged redfish in order to win any prizes. So make sure you go to ccaflstar.com for more info on that. But we're seeing what the wade life is like in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region and saying hi to a very good friend from CCA when we come back, plus getting the weekend update in the Seasucker Panhandle region with Captain Pat Deneen. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, your fish, our science, Bahio, blue light blocking, radically clear polarized fishing sunglasses, Scoozy Shoes, the captain's choice for premium lightweight comfort, Seasucker, easy on, easy off, incredibly strong, Penn, let the battle begin, Kubota, together we do more. And the International Order of T. Roosevelt, protect your right to fish.
Joining me is my dear friend Brian Gorski from CCA Florida. Brian, this boat is our new raffle boat for 2025.
Yes, it is, Rick, and we're excited. It's Maverick Boat Group. It's the Pathfinder 2200. And it's the newly redesigned. It's loaded with everything that you need for fishing, and we are going to raffle this boat off on February 27th. We're going to draw the winner in Manatee County at the CCA Florida Banquet.
Well, speaking of Manatee County, last year we actually gave away the boat. Why don't we take a look at what happened?
Pretty spectacular.
It was pretty neat.
You're going to reach in, you're going to dig deep, you're not looking, you're going to dig all the way in the middle, and you're going to draw that lucky winner of the Pathfinder. Here it is.
So we were cool enough to draw the winner
Just skipped a beat.
actually in the audience.
That rarely happens. Out of the 40 plus boats we've given away, I think it's only happened 3 or 4 times.
That's right. And the winner was a guy that I actually had fished with down at the at Maverick Owners Tournament, or the Pathfinder Tournament down in Hawks Cay, and this is what's so neat, to be able to have a local guy win the boat with all those raffle tickets. So let's talk a little bit, while we're at it, let's talk a little bit about all the features that the new boat's going to have that you haven't had in the past. So it's a boat motor trailer package, but we already have power poles, Rodan trolling motor on the front. In the console, we have a rig with a Garmin and a full stereo system.
The thing is loaded and ready to go.
So where do we go to get the tickets, Brian? Can we buy tickets now?
You can buy tickets now. You can go online to ccaflorida.org. Or if you go to one of our banquets, we've got 43 banquets throughout the year, plus tournaments, plus secondary events. Any event that we have, you can buy tickets in person. There's some people that they want to buy that ticket. They want to get that ticket right in their hand. But there's plenty of people that buy them online, and the gentleman that won that we just showed the footage of bought it online.
That's
even
right.
though he wanted
and
it
he
in
only
person.
bought 2. So guys, buy a lot because it just increases your chances. Thank you so much for everything you do for us and also for CCA. We're
thank
really
you, Rick.
grateful. All right, Bree.
I second that.
All the gratefulness
Thanks,
is over.
Brian.
You got to go to this now.
Yep. Well, Jeff, the Discover Crystal River Northwest region is in our thoughts and prayers this week, and we're hoping for the best. But what can we expect when we do get back to wading?
Well, we're all prepped for the storm up here, so hopefully it gets back to normal pretty quick. But surf fishing and wading is a great way to fish our region. Very stealthy. A good pair of waders, wading boots, or an old pair of sneakers to protect your feet is a must up here. We got a lot of sharp rocks and oysters. The farther you get north in my region, the more rocks you got, so keep your feet safe out there when you're out there doing that. We also got some great beach fishing. If you want to wade the beach in the southern part of the region, especially in the summer months, you can get along the edge of the beach, right, a couple feet of water, and fish that swash channel for snook in the summer months. Also, pompano and whiting get along there too. So you fish parallel to the beach for the snook, out a little bit deeper for the pompano and whiting, and like I said, that channel for the snook and along the passes there are really good. The upper part of my region, you're kind of going to need a boat or a kayak or something to get out to the area where you're going to wade. And me and Rick did this up north of Cedar Key. We took a boat in and got in there in the super winter, low tide winter months, and got in there on those full moon tides where the water gets sucked out and gets those negatives. It can be an extremely good way to catch a lot of fish. You can see the bottom contour, and those fish get trapped and concentrated in those deeper channels.
All right, what else you got this week?
Moving inshore, staying inshore, Captain Bobby Brady of Stanahatchee reports a good fight right now. The transition in this cooler water we're getting with all the rain we've got. Redfish are starting to be more patterned to that shallow water. Half-ounce gold spoon bouncing along the bottoms, working really good for her with a slow retrieve. Moving down towards my area, Captain Jim Paul, our Big Daddy Sport Fishing out of St. Pete's, reporting an awesome redfish bite in Tampa Bay. Captain Jim's primarily focusing on the redfish during the incoming tides before the water gets into the trees, because the redfish are going up under them on these big tides we're having. And he's been finding schools prefer live pilchards with a lot of chumming. And every now and then some cut bait is working good. Chum heavily, you don't get them fired up, push a little forward, and that seems to be working really good for the redfish. And I've got a few redfish photos from Captain Bobby,
Nice.
Captain Jim, and myself.
There you
from last
go.
week.
Nice. Keep them coming. One more to go. Dang.
Captain Chris Weir out of St. Pete reports he's catching some huge mangrove snapper right now on the natural reefs and ledges in 90 feet to 110 feet of water. He's catching pinfish and greenbacks on the flats and the skyway, hooking them through the pectoral fin on the underside of them, allowing the fish to get dragged down in an upright position, creating that natural presentation. 1/8 ounce to a 1/2 ounce jig head, 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leader, and make sure you chum up that heavy area with greenbacks, dead ones and live ones as you're fishing over top of those areas. And I got a photo here of a beautiful mango with Chris.
Nice. All right, tell me about
One
Rob. Rob on the Big
Captain
Nasty.
Rob Davenport, Big Nasty out of St. Pete, reports good scamp bite right now, 170 to 225. Finding fish on hard bottom ledges, 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader, 8 ounces of lead, 6/0 Trokar circle hook has been working real well for him. Small live baits have been the bait of choice.
Thank you so much for all your hard work this year. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hotspots from the Northwest region. Jeff says the snook around the beaches and in the passes use pinfish or sardines on the outgoing tide. And then if you want to go offshore, the mangrove snappers on the high relief structure in 30 to 70 feet of water use cut sardines on a knocker rig.
All right, well, the Sea Sucker Panhandle
That's a
regions.
knocker rig.
Yep, it's safety is also on our minds this week with Hurricane Helene. But Pat, when we do get back to fishing, what might our wading opportunities look like?
Hey, Bree, the Panhandle has plenty of areas for wading fishermen. If I'm going to be wading, I prefer a firm bottom, for the simplicity of walking on it. And St. Joe Bay has miles of wadable flats with that kind of bottom, various angles, so you can always find a good wind. In Panama City, St. Andrews Bay on the backside of Shell Island is another firm bottom area offering plenty of wading opportunities. North Bay and West Bay over there, the bottom is nice and healthy, but it's much softer, so it makes it a bit tougher to wade. Choctawhatchee Bay, White Point, Black Point, Elliott's Point, all have firm bottoms, healthy grass, good access, perfect for wading. All the angles are there. And then finally, the Gulf Islands National Seashore on the south side of Santa Rosa Sound and the Live Oak Seashore on the north side of the sound. They've got tons of access with really good fishing. Speckled trout, redfish, flounders are primarily the targeted species for wade fishermen. But Jack Crevalle, bluefish, pompano, and ladyfish are certainly caught and commonly caught. Spring and fall are the best times of the year, and right now the flats are covered with white baits, so the timing is good to get in the water, after the weather. Staying inshore, the redfish continue to be caught in really good numbers throughout the bays and into the inlet. I just mentioned all the white bait on the flats in the bay. Fish around those bait schools, that's where the redfish are going to be, speckled trout, bluefish, Spanish, all the above. The last several days, the Choctawhatchee Beach area, Choctaw Beach on the north side of our bay, has been absolutely loaded with bait and activity. The big fish are also stacked up in the inlets, the big redfish, and they have been chewing really good the last few days. Live croaker on a slip sinker rig around the pilings or jetties on the outgoing tide is the best bite. The inlet fish are primarily over slot with a few slot fish thrown in, while the back bay reds may range from shorts to bulls. You get the whole variety. Moving offshore, there's been some good blue marlins being caught. Captain Chris Mowat, who runs the best trade out of Orange Beach, he recently caught the largest blue marlin in the Gulf, but he just had a trip where they released 13 for 19 blue marlins and went 2 for 2 on white marlins. And Captain Devin Potts on the Yellow Steel, he day tripped to the Fads and released 3 blue marlins. So you don't have to go the distance to the rigs. Live baiting with tunas, while equipped with sonar, is definitely how the big numbers are being put up. But trolling spread of teasers, lures, and bait still produces, blue marlin catches. And I'm a huge believer in the Moldcraft Wide Ranger in blue and silver, blue and white, or black and red. And there's a picture of the laundry flying behind Captain Chris's boat, the best trade after their phenomenal trips.
Wow.
Trips like that rival anywhere in the world. So that's pretty good fishing.
That sure is. All right, tell me about the amberjacks.
Yeah, Rick, finally, offshore, the amberjacks, they must be feeling this low pressure coming because they've been biting exceptionally well. Fishing the deep wrecks, the bigger breaks on the edges, using live blue runners, bluefish, mullets for baits on long leaders. Slow fish style jigs will catch their share of the amberjacks, but really the bigger ones are coming from the bigger baits with fish up to 100 pounds have been caught this past week. And there's a photo there of a stoked young lady and a bruiser amberjack she bested while fishing with Captain Nino on the charter boat Into the Blue out of Destin. So that's a happy young lady right there.
Yes, it is. Love seeing those kids fishing. Thanks for all the pictures and hard work this year. Pat, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Panhandle region. Pat says, weather permitting, the Destin Bridge on the afternoon falling tide has been very good for the redfish. Tried croakers are going to be your best bait, and spot minnows next. And then guess what? Offshore doesn't look very good weather-wise. So let the weather pass, slip offshore when the conditions permit for billfish and the AJs.
Football. All right, we've been talking about all summer about protecting our rights to fish and hunt, and now the chance is here to get out and vote for Florida's Amendment 2. This is a bipartisan, common sense measure supported by conservationists, environmentalists, hunters, and anglers as a humane way to manage Florida's wildlife, protect its natural resources, and promote environmental leadership. So whether you want to protect our environment or our traditions, Amendment 2 is for you. So go to voteyesonTwoFlorida.com to learn more. Super important. All right, well, it's just about Taco Marine new product time at the CCA Workbench, and Dave is ready for his closeout sale, it looks like. Look at you and all this stuff.
We got some cool Scoozy shoes, and the CEO is here to tell us all about it.
No way.
No,
yes.
Come on.
All right, that sounds good. And then in the Fish Bites East region, Captain Mike Holliday is helping us stay stealthy and be one with the fish. So stay hooked, and we'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Abyss Battery, power your pursuit. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. Black Oak LED, never be left in the dark. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, as you can see, it's time for the Taco Marine new products here at the CCA Workbench. And Dave,
Yes.
I'm just going to get started. You know, Casa Vieja, you and I have been there a bunch of times. You did Marlin Universities. Well, here's what they got new for us. One, they got some new boats come online. They got the Poco Loco, which has totally been redone.
Right.
So that's coming back in the fall.
We got the hooker back.
Yep.
And the Pica Mas.
The Pica Mas.
Yep. So
and then they
really
have,
nice big boats.
Yeah, and then they have the Chalero, which
Right.
was the Islander, so it's relatively new. Love that about them. They're always updating their boats, making them much bigger, but more importantly, they're going to break construction. They're going to build 8 rooms out in the back.
Right back there behind the tiki hut. They're going to put 8 more double rooms.
So
back
we'll
there.
have 16 more available anglers.
Yeah.
So guys, guess what? They're going to need you guys to start booking some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Now here's
now
what's
they can
even
hold
better.
everybody. You know,
Look at this number.
Yeah. Oh,
Look
last
at
year,
this number.
Last year they caught 12,160 billfish the entire year, and this year they're already at 15,079, and they still have got
And
several
we
months
still
to
have
go.
the fall fishing left.
Yeah, so
there it is. If
Casa
you want to
Vieja
know,
Lodge.
CasaViejaLodge.com.
It's the best.
Go ahead.
Next, we have new land line at Real Legends. This land terrain long sleeve.
I love this.
Yeah, that's the long sleeve and the short sleeve. They're lightweight woven fabrics, fully vented backs for cooling. They got button chest pockets, UPF sun protection. They have little sunglass cleaners on them so you can keep your sunglasses clean. Just really nice.
You see that?
Yeah,
It says M for Murphy.
it does. They're for you. They also have the men's land ridge shorts. These are super lightweight woven fabric. Again, 2 front mesh pockets and a back flap, UPF sun protection, quick dry, all the good stuff that you want to have and have a good pair of shorts.
These dudes are really
I also
knocking
like
out
it.
some good stuff.
Yeah, they have the nice, elastic in the waistband, which is
Yes, you need that.
very good for me.
Yes, you do.
Very good for me. Next, we have the Scientific Anglers. We got the 2-pack cleaning pads and the Sonar Saltwater Intermediate Slow Sinking Fly Line. But let's do the fly line first.
Okay.
Comes with a slow sinking clear head that cuts through the surface and provides an amazing amount of stealth. Redfish, bonefish permit. You get up on top of them in that clear water. That clear head really does you right. It's got the Tropic Core Tech for hot climates, welded loops, just really premium. It comes in 6 weights, 7 through 12, 200 grams all the way up to 415 grams.
Which is going to sink really good.
Right, and then you got your little Scientific Anglers 2-pack cleaning pads there. You can clean up your flea line with them. Just keeps your fly line supple and not sticky, for optimum casting. That micro polishing technology makes the pads work really well and improves the shootability and the flotation of your fly line.
Exactly right. So Ted, if you want to walk on in here, we have Ted, obviously,
over this way.
the
You go this
CEO
way.
from Scoozy Shoes. So Ted, you guys now have been a sponsor a couple years. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the company and where we sit today?
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Rick. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We are a local family-based company out of Pompano Beach.
You talk, I'll hold this. Go ahead. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
And we studied all the boat shoes out there, and whatever problems they had, we wanted to solve those problems. For instance, many of them had solid leather. When leather gets wet, it gets heavy, and it tends to develop odor.
Right.
We use a high-tech mesh that's used only in the high-end running shoes.
Right.
It breathes, so your feet don't get too hot.
Right.
You don't sweat a lot.
Right. It doesn't stink.
It doesn't stink, and it dries quickly, which a lot of captains really like.
We also have the ability to pull this insole out and
Which
wash
you
it.
can't do with most other boat shoes, and it's a very cushiony, so you get a lot of soft. The inside of the shoe is all antimicrobial, so once again, no stink.
You got about 30 seconds left. Let's talk a little bit about the bottoms.
Oh, all right, the bottoms are special because not only are they very cushiony, but they're extremely light. In fact, this is the lightest, most comfortable shoe in the world market.
Very light.
Yes, it's 6.5 ounces, and it's slip resistant, both uphill and downhill, and of course, non-marking on your boat.
Absolutely. So where do we go to find out more information about the shoes?
You would go to Scoozy, S-K-U-Z-E, shoes with an S.com, and they'll be there.
All right, we got lots of different styles, lots of different colors. Thank you so much for your support and how much you do for us here at the Florida Insider Fishing Report. We all love your shoes.
My
Yes,
pleasure.
we
Thank
do.
you so much, Rick.
Go
These
ahead, Rick.
scoozies are sure comfortable. That is 100% sure. All right, the Fish Bites East region is the perfect place to get your weight on and get closer to the fish, which allows you to sight fish them occasionally, and there's nothing better than that. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Bray, whether you park and walk in or you get to a location by boat and then get out and wade, the advantage of wade fishing is that you can get closer to the fish without them detecting your presence. And we've got some great areas to park and walk in. There's access on Center Island, which will let you fish Little Lake Worth in Palm Beach County. Or if you like the Indian River on South Hutchinson Island, you can get in at the House of Refuge, Herman's Bay. You can get in off Bear Point. Off Indian River Drive, you can walk in at Walton Road or Savannah Road or Torpy Road. All those are great wade spots. And this time of year, the majority of wade fishermen are targeting snook, trout, and redfish, and throwing everything from saltwater sass and shads and sea shads to topwater plugs or live shrimp or finger mullet. The best areas that have seen a resurgent in seagrass, that's where you want to be. And if not, you're throwing at docks and individual pilings. The best wade fishing is going to be at dawn and dusk in those cooler periods of the day this time of the year. I have a cool photo of Allison Went with a nice redfish that she got wading in the Indian River with Jason Arman of That's Our Man Land-Based Fishing Charters. He does wade fishing charters in my area, and that fish ate a live shrimp. Cool. The other thing we got going, the snook bites moved inshores up into the river, like the Loxahatchee and the St. Lucie rivers. They're both holding a lot of fish right now. We've had super high tide, so there's a lot of water in front of the seawalls. So, topwater plug, swimming plug, or a live mullet is going to be money on those fish. And don't overlook the seawalls in the Intercoastal Waterway from Hope Sound all the way down to North Palm Beach, as well as the spillways in Palm Beach, Martin, and St. Lucie counties. With the rain we're going to have this week, they should be on fire. If you're looking to beat the heat, the nighttime dock bite's been pretty fun for anglers throwing topwater plugs or small bait fish flies or even some small mullet flies. And then the bridge bite at night has been really good for larger fish, throwing swimming plugs and Artemis shads or even a live mullet. Average snook in my region is like 8 to 18 pounds. And I got a photo of a big one that Charlie DeBay got off of Jupiter, and that fish ate a live croaker.
Yes, he did. All right, tell me about what's going on offshore, bub.
Well, in this last week, we've seen a good push of dolphin into the region, particularly on the days with northerly winds. There hadn't been a lot of weed lines or current edges, but it seems like there's a lot of fish around the schools of flying fish that are out there in 60 to 140 feet of water, just throughout the whole region. There have been some fish caught under frigate birds and around turtles, and a lot of boats are having success in the flying fish areas, just shutting down and drifting, just drifting baits out behind the boat, putting up a kite and drifting. You can target the fish with troll ballyhoo or slow troll live mullet or pilchards or thread fins. The majority of dolphin are being caught right now are peanuts. They're either singles or pairs. So smaller baits are working better than bigger baits. And then as we start to see more easterly winds, we should start seeing weed lines stacking up and more dolphin action, and at least you know where to start. The average dolphin right now is like 5 to 12 pounds. And I have a photo from the Salty Days charter boat. They got that nice catch of dolphin around the flying fish schools in 90 feet of water off of Hope Sound. The other bite we got going, we're seeing the first fish of blackfin tuna into the area. Bite is totally random. There's still some blackfins being caught around Push Button Hill. Most of those are small, and they're being caught right at dawn or very late in the afternoon. Also, there's a bite off Lake Worth, from about Lake Worth up to Jupiter in 200 to 400 feet of water. That seems to be a dawn bite as well. The larger blackfins in the group, they're just kind of hit and miss. They move around, they're feeding. They'll get on those flying fish in the next couple of weeks, and that should be really good. But for now, target them trolling small feathers or naked ballyhoo. You can drift and live chum, or you can put up a kite. It's totally random though, so no real rhyme or reason. Pilchards, threadfin, sardines, or goggle eyes are all good baits. Average blackfin tuna is 8 to 20 pounds, but there are some big ones, and I got a photo of a big one that Captain Chris Britton sent me a big blackfin they caught in 220 feet of water, and they found that on a floating log. Pitched the bait out at the log and a live threadfin on the log and caught that big blackfin.
That's a nice one. Speaking of big ones, what do you got for a bass report? You got any big ones?
Oh, there is some big ones. The water levels are up on Headwaters Lake in Fellsmere. I was talking to Captain Nathan Shellen of OkeechobeeBassFishing.com. He said the rising water has really opened access to a lot of areas that you couldn't get to before. The top water bite's been good in the early mornings, throwing small poppers, frogs, and prop baits, and just working them super slow with long pauses. The better bite has been fishing the edges of the hydrilla with soft plastics, like a June bug colored Bass Assassin RSB worm or a black shad colored 5-inch forward facing sonar shad. If you're looking for the big bite though, flipping or pitching the scattered cattails with a June bug colored creature bait is the way to go. You also get a few on shiners working those same areas. And lastly, there's been a little bit of an early morning shad bite on the south end of the reservoir. Right now, it's like a 30 to 40 fish morning with fish up to 6 or 7 pounds.
Thank you so much, Mike, for all the good reports this year. We appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the TH Marine hotspots from the East region. He says inshore, tarpon and snook at the C34 spillway, tarpon plugs, Houdini colored sea shads, and live finger mullets, topwater plugs, by the way. And then, listen what, offshore, dolphin, blackfin, tunas, and wahoos in 150 to 300 feet of water off Sloan's Curve, live threadfin sardines, and a pilchard will catch that plethora of offshore
nice word.
Species.
Nice word. All right, coming up soon
the biggest word I know.
More of the Shoreline Showdown Surf Fishing Tournament Series presented by Fish Bites. 4 tournaments, 1 championship, and over $75,000 in guaranteed payouts, plus fishing for a chance to qualify to compete for the title of the Ultimate Surf Angler. We are 2 down with 2 more to go, so for more information, scan that QR code or visit ShorelineShowdown.com. All right, well, we're making long casts into the Alto Equipment Southwest and Casa Vieja Southeast regions when we come back for our wade fishing extravaganza. So stay hooked. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron. Start, run, and store with StarTron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. Takeuchi, from world first to world leader. The Florida Keys and Key West, come as you are. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Welcome back. If you want to be successful while wade fishing in the Alto Equipment Southwest region, Captain Ron Houston has all of the tips to get you to the top. Just want to wish you a happy belated birthday, Ronnie. Let's get these anglers in the water.
Well, thanks for the birthday wishes and thanks for a wonderful year. As we're ending summer, coming up with fall and winter as approaching, you should start to see some cold fronts, combined with northeasterly winds, especially around those phases of the full moon, which is going to make those tides extremely low. But most flats throughout the region, specifically in the north end of the region, like Bull Bay, Turtle Bay, Pine Island Sound, Estero Bay, you want to look for grass and potholes and possibly combine that with troughs and channel edges, really what you want to target. Now, the approaching fronts right now, in the wintertime, the west winds are going to generally make your tides a lot higher. But the passing of the fronts is really when you want to get out there on those low tides with the winds I spoke about. And I try to keep it simple when I'm trying to locate baits. I don't use a whole bunch of baits. I try to concentrate on using topwater plugs for the distance I can throw into those potholes and for the sound of the clacking. Gold spoons for the flash. But then also those troughs and potholes that are holding water. Soft plastic shrimp and paddle tails on a jig head. And since Bass Assassin came out with the little P&V, that's really going to be my go-to bait and has been my go-to bait for the last 2 years for that low water bouncing the potholes and troughs. Now, as we stay inshore, the redfish. The bite, pretty good all through the region. The east wall in Charlotte Harbor, the east wall in Estero Bay, and to the south, Coon Key, all the way down into the Everglades, especially in those outside points and shorelines in all the areas. But, in the last week and a half, we've had them flood tides, so like I've spoken about, the mid-tides generally are best. You also want to look for the concentration of mullet schools. That's been best for numbers of fish. But you can also use the easiest way for scent, cut shrimp, cut mullet, cut ladyfish on the bottom. Redfish can't resist that. But also a variety of soft plastic shrimp and paddle tails on the jig head, as well as live pinfish knocker rigs, keep them in place, or simply chumming pilchards. In the calm before the storm, a buddy of mine who just fished with me, there's a nice redfish, as we caught several that day just before this storm approached. So once the storm passes, things should get better. Offshore side is going to be the permit. You know, we still got warm weather. Permit bite is still consistent throughout the whole region, from Marco all the way to Stump Pass. Catching fish, like I say, as close as 5 miles and out to 30 miles. Simply targeting towers, wrecks, and artificial reefs. Best bait, and there's still plenty to get, is going to be the live crabs. But if you get into some schools, live shrimp and bright-colored bucktails have been working with shrimp. You know, a couple different ways to work it. You can anchor up or some of the structure. You can drift across, but if you get on some of them schools that have been out there, sight fishing in and around the structure is going to be the key. And I got a nice picture of a permit that's caught with anonymous fishing charters out of Naples. Last species is going to be the cobia. Still with the warm weather remaining, start to look for fall and winter. The cooling temps of the water is going to make cobia fishing improve. There's plenty of opportunities still right now to fish wrecks and artificial reefs. So right now from south end of the region, Indian Key to Wiggins Pass, again, wrecks, towers, and artificial reefs. If you want to target them, you have a variety of live baits and artificials like bucktails, swim baits, artificial eels. Most fish that are sight fish will eat just about anything, so if you get one in front, it really doesn't matter what you have. And another nice cobia that's been caught with on-a-mission fishing charters. Got to say thanks to all the captains who've helped me out this year, the viewer who depends on our report, and most of all, the sponsors that keep us going. I greatly appreciate it. Keep an eye out for the products. Keep an eye out for what we're going to be using next year as we end the season.
All right, Ronnie, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the battery tender hotspots from the Southwest region. Inshore, trout, Bull Bay to Turtle Bay, Pine Island Sound, and potholes and grass flats and 2 to 5 feet of water using noise-making corks and soft plastics on the jig head. And then offshore, mangrove snappers and yellowtails, 75 to 100 feet of water, wrecks, sledges, and artificial reefs, chumming and using small cut baits. You know, Bree,
yes,
I have to tell this story. You know, we have Mike Iaconelli, one of the top bass guys in the world. He came down last week. That's one of the reasons I was out. We went to fish with Ronnie in the Marco Island, Goodland area. And I want to tell you, between Ronnie and Iaconelli throwing war pigs, Berkeley war pigs, which is a rattle type of bait,
right,
casting and casting and casting, we caught monster snooks. We caught trout. We caught big redfish. Iaconelli had his first slam. I can't wait for everybody to see this episode of Sportsman's Adventures, which would be sometime in 2025.
There you go. They're going to be big.
Big
you guys
fun.
are animals,
and
you are.
Ronnie did an unbelievable job.
Oh, wow. So fish
Very
with you
well
too.
prepared. Yeah,
That's
it was awesome.
All right, the Casa Vieja Lodge Southeast region has so many pros when it comes to fishing, but wade fishing, according to Captain Jimbo Thomas, isn't really one of them, but we can always make the best out of it. Right, Jimbo?
That's correct, Bree, and hello everybody else in the studio. You know, there's not a lot of wade fishing that takes place in the Southeast region. I think a lot of it is because the water gets pretty deep very fast. Now, most of the beaches throughout the region, they're fishing friendly, but you want to get out there early before that beach gets too crowded. One area in the south end of the region that's a common wade fishing spot is Matheson Hammock, which has good wade fishing for bonefish, sea trout, and barracuda on both the north and south sides of the park. Another good spot is off Hobie Beach on the Rickenbacker Causeway, where there's occasionally bonefish and tarpon caught. And typical wade fishing tackle would be a light to medium pin spinning outfit or plug casting outfit using both live and artificial baits. Now I got a photo here of a beautiful bonefish, which is a prime species to target while wading the flats. This is Deaky Virgil with a really nice bonefish that he caught off Key Biscayne while wading.
Yes.
So they're out there.
All right, tell us about snook and tarpon.
We've got quite a bit of baits starting to move south along the beaches. Some of these schools of finger mullet, regular size mullet, and pilchers, they've made it into the inlets and the bays. And following these schools of bait have been mostly snook and tarpon, but there's also been big jack crevalles, barracudas, and sharks mixed in. Once these baits make it into the bays, there's also been trout and mangrove snapper chasing them. You want to look for the bait on the surface or any bird activity, cast net or sabiki, some of those live baits. Beaky won't work on the mullets. You'll have to net those. You want to work those live baits on the outside edges of the bait schools using 3/0 to 6/0 circle hook, depending on what size bait you got. Or you can cast 3 to 6 inch jerk baits or surface and swimming lures and plugs in black and silver or green and silver, and you want to try and match the lure size to that bait in the area. Now on the south end, we've had plenty of pilchards showing up, but most of the mullet are still up towards the north end of the region. And this annual bait migration should last a few more weeks, and it usually peaks around Columbus Day. Now moving offshore, the August and September full moons are one of the best times of the year to target wahoo, and we had the September full moon last week. Now the bulk of the wahoos are going to be caught from Boca north to Palm Beach, but anywhere you can find some good blue water in North Current, you got a great chance of catching a wahoo. Live baits fished under the kite or on the drift in 150 to 300 to 400 feet of water. It's a great way to get a wahoo bite, and you want to use big baits to attract the most bites. And if you can come up with some pilchards or sardines to live chum with, that'll hopefully attract those wahoos as well. And if you don't have any live baits, trolling will get the good amount of bites. You want to use a drone spoon or a feather and a bait or a sea witch behind a strip behind a sea witch and a planer, and the trick is to get your bait down deep, and you want to troll anywhere from 6 to 10 knots. Trolling is also a great way to locate the fish. You can troll until you get bites or find a productive range, a depth range, and then you can put those live baits out. And most of the fish are going to be in the 20 to 30 pound range. Got another photo here. This is Mike Rice with a huge wahoo that he caught under a floater. That's
Wow.
a weehoo. That's not a wahoo.
That's pretty cool, though, Jimbo.
They let him go so he can grow up. Now,
nice.
also, a little further offshore, we're still finding dolphin, although it's been very hit or miss. You want to look for these dolphin anywhere from 5 to 20 miles offshore, and practically anything floating has been holding these dolphin, and they've been mostly schoolies in the 5 to 10 pound range. Been very little sargassum coming through, and it's been scattered at best, but there have been birds working over some of the fish and also over those floaters. So catching those dolphins is the easy part. You just got to find them. We've been getting them on troll baits like rig ballyhoo, bonita strips, small lures, and feathers. And once you locate the fish, you want to have some live baits handy, small pilchards, or if you don't have any live baits, you can use cup bonita or ballyhoo. And there's also been wahoos hanging under most of those floaters.
All right, Jimbo, thank you so much. We're going to go and take a look at the Black Oak LED hotspots from the southeast region. Jimbo says, inshore, catch and release tarpon and snook in the inlets and off of the beaches. Fish the evening on with both live and artificial baits. And then offshore, head offshore in search of the mahis on the troll with live or cut bait around the grass patches, debris, and the bird activity.
You know, Rick, it's so much fun. Obviously, everyone wants to catch the big wahoo or the big dolphin, but when you catch those little tiny ones, sometimes, I mean, it's cool too, right?
Well, it's
Remember we caught that small sailfish on Sportsman Adventures? That was amazing.
It was this big.
Yeah, it was so cute.
It was so cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, when you're on the road, make sure you show your support for Florida's fisheries with a Conserve Florida's Fisheries license plate. Funds from the sale of the redfish tag directly support protecting and enhancing marine resources, habitat restoration, water quality, and coastal environmental education. Make sure to get yours now at your local DMV or redfishtag.com.
So Bree, let's talk a little bit about details there. You know, when we talk about habitat restoration, I know myself, after we had the hurricane in Fort Myers, we went over and planted a bunch of mangroves in one of the parks over there. You know, the other thing that we're doing is even our CCA committee in Homestead, we're going to be creating oyster reefs where you actually drill holes in old oyster shells, and then we put them all together and then we deploy them. So guys, you know, when we're talking about CCA and this license tag, the one thing that you need to understand is by buying one of these, you contribute to all of those programs that we have going on, including fish hatcheries and artificial reefs, and so on and so on and so on.
So important.
Yes.
It's going somewhere good.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we've got your Takeuchi Keys region inshore and offshore report ready to go when we come back on the Florida Insider Fishing Report with Captain Ridge Murphy. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Who?
Murphy.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures, Tournament Tackle, the IGFA, every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy, 30 years of fishing for adventure. Berkeley Pro Spec Chrome, Real Legends, available at bellsflorida.com. And Taco Marine, master the catch.
Today's Power Pole tip is about the total boat control package. When you put a Power Pole charge in your boat, a Power Pole move on the bow, and our shallow water anchors on the back, you save over 80 to 90 pounds on your boat compared to the competition. That's a 43% weight savings. To put that in perspective, that's 20 bags of ice out of the boat, 10 gallons of fuel, or 1,300 jig heads coming out of the boat to give you a shallower draft, a better hole shot, or more top end speed. That's the Power Pole Premium brand. It's hardcore anglers building the best products in the marine industry, backed by the best customer service here in Tampa, Florida. To learn more about Power Pole, go to powerpole.com, and that's your Power Pole tip.
All right, well, there's a time and place for everything, and in the Takeuchi Keys region, there are some waiting opportunities, but I'm going to take Captain Ridge Murphy's advice and just stay in the boat. Wrap us up with the season, Ridge.
You know, when it comes to waiting here in the Florida Keys, we don't have very much of it. Some of the diehards will walk the hard sand bottoms along the roads in the middle and lower Keys, on the ocean side on low water for the bonefish, but for the most part we pull because the sharks are so bad. What is going on here in the Alta Equipment region, redfish on the high waters, on the top of the flats in schools of 10 to 30 fish. Pull along the top of the flats, waking fish, and you're going to want to throw a 1/4 ounce gold spoon, Bass Assassin 5-inch jerkbait, a 4-inch sea shad, and your choice of color. I like pink, white, or chartreuse just so the angler can see it and make a perfect presentation to that fish. Anything that is going away from them and not so much coming at them will always work. And I have a photo of Robbie Bender with a nice double of red that we got a few days ago.
Nice.
Also inshore, the snook fishing around the islands has been pretty good. All the islands in Florida Bay have lots of snooks in the moats and around the islands. And you're going to fish the falling and the low incoming waters because these big tides way up underneath the mangroves during the high. So you're going to want to throw a gulp shrimp rigged weedless on an eagle claw hook, and you're going to sight fish for these fish. These fish are ranging from mid-20s to lower slot fish, and they're swimming in groups of 4 and 5 all up and down the shoreline. I have another photo of Finn and Christian Falk with a nice pair of snooks that we caught in preparation for the Herman Lucerne this past weekend.
Nice. All right, let's go offshore.
Speaking of the Herman Lucerne, I got one more photo, and I want to congratulate Richard Black and his angler Jim Bokar on their big win this past weekend. They kicked everyone's butt, and they truly deserve it.
Tell us about the blackfins.
We got blackfin tunas on the 409 hump. And I have a good chance if you get a bunch of live bait. You're going to spray live filters behind the boat and free line 2 to 3 rods with 20 to 30 pound mono, clear or blue, and you can tie straight to an eagle claw live bait hook, but then you run the risk of them chewing through. You can always put a 40-pound leader, but you might not get as many big fish, but a 40-pound leader is always a good insurance policy. Drop these baits back behind the boat, and you're going to want to use little or no resistance as the captain bumps into the current. And when you get the bite, you want to stay on top of these fish because the sharks have been pretty bad. Also offshore, we got yellowtails. The yellowtail bite has been pretty good right now, 10 per person and 12 inches. And be selective. Guys are chumming with frozen chum, oats, and sand in 60 to 90 feet of water. And free line baits back behind the boat with little to no resistance. You're going to want to use 10 to 16 pound mono tied straight to the yellowtail jig or a small eagle claw hook. And you can use small chunks of ballyhoo, shrimp, or small little chunks of bonitas. And keep in mind, guys are getting their limit fairly fast, so you might want to let some of these smaller fish go to swim another day.
What else you got for me, Ridge? That it? You done? No more pictures?
That's what I got.
All right, well, I got a question for you then, son. How about your first year, the Florida Insider Fish Report? How do you think it went?
You know, I'm glad to be a part of the Florida Fish Report team, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you guys for watching the last couple of weeks. It's fun. It's been a fun past year.
right, well, I know the Florida Keys is your region. Tell me a little bit about what then the Herman Lucerne. Tell everybody what it is. 7 species over 2 days. So tell me how they adjusted it a little bit.
You know, so before we used to have, it was a redfish, tarpon, trout, snapper, black drum, and a bonefish, and you could also substitute your black drum with a bass. And it was a tournament that honored a man named Herman Lucerne that was really big into fishing the backcountry of the Everglades. And they changed the format a little bit. We got rid of, you know, because the sharks are so bad, you used to be able to upgrade every fish, and now they're only upgrading. You can only upgrade once, and you can only measure those fish once. So it's kind of cool. It's a little bit different, a little more challenging, because you got to look at those red. Like, say I catch a 23-inch redfish, and I say, you know what, I want to put my points on the board real quick, but you know, we're going to have to upgrade that. And so in that process of upgrading, you want to make sure it's a really, really good one, because you're only going to get one more shot on that.
All right.
The tarpon.
Well, thank you. I got to go. Sorry, bub. I got to get to your hot spots.
Good information, though.
Redfish on the flats in big schools, and look for the rumbling wakes, and throw Bass Assassin 4-inch sea shads and Bass Assassin 5-inch jerkbaits, rig weedless, because the grass is bad. And then offshore, tunas on the humps. I know we've been repeating this every week, but guess what? It's the most consistent game in town, and there's lots of tunas out there. Live chum with pilchers, and if the bait is hard, then you control small feathers or island lures.
Good information on the Herman Lucerne. You got to change with the times.
That's it.
Sharks. All right, let's take a look at some more tournaments going on in the Florida Keys. First, anglers compete for awards in 3 divisions: artificial, fly, and bait, for the longest bonefish and permit during the 54th annual Isla Mirada Fall All Tackle Bonefish and Permit Championship, October 14th through the 16th. Next is the All-American Backcountry Fishing Tournament in Isla Mirada, November 7th through the 9th, where anglers target snook, redfish, bonefish, tarpon, and permit, with proceeds benefiting the Bonefish Tarpon Trust. Then anglers use either spin or fly, November 14th through the 19th in the Lower Keys, to pursue the Sugarloaf Showdown's targets of bonefish, permit, and barracuda, with proceeds benefiting the Florida Keys Guides Trust Foundation. And finally is the Isla Mirada Sailfish Tournament, set for December 5th through the 8th, and is the first leg of the Triple Crown Series Florida Keys Gold Cup Sailfish Championship. We're in December already. For more information on Keys tournaments, go to flakeys.com. But you know, if you've never been wade fishing before, we hope you get out of your comfort zone and get your feet wet. But ladies and gents, our job here is almost done, so stay with us a little bit longer on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, and we will be right back. Welcome back. We just want to congratulate our very own Jeff Barnes, who is our Chief Production Manager and who was selected as one of 3 captains for the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary for District 7 and will be representing sectors Miami, Key West, and San Juan, Puerto Rico, with over 1,300 members. We are proud to have you as part of our RM Media team, Jeff. But this is the final season, not our final season, our final show of the season. We'll be back in 2025. Make sure you check out our social media pages, YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. Thank you to our sponsors, our fans, everybody here at RM Media and Media Pro, and we will see everybody next year.
Bye, guys.
And on YouTube.
I'm still not calling him
And
Admiral.
this is me. Say hi, me. Hey, you selling these bracelets, girl?